This is a Fox 13 special report. The Salt Lake County mayoral debate, moderated by Max Roth.
Thank you for joining us. Salt Lake County Mayor Peter Caroon is stepping down after 2 terms in office. And that means one of the 2 men sitting behind me is going to guide Salt Lake County through the next 4 years. To your left, you have Ben McAdams, a Democrat. To your right, you have Mark Crockett, a Republican. Thank you both so much for joining us today for the Salt Lake County mayoral debate.
It's great to be here.
Well, I'm going to ask a series of questions, some from me, some actually came from our viewers. You guys are going to have 60 seconds to answer each question. You'll have a countdown timer that you can see as you're answering those questions, and our viewers will also be able to see that time counting down in the corner of their screens. No pressure. Okay, so we actually flipped a coin at the beginning of the debate. Mr. Crockett, you won that coin toss. The first question goes to you. How do you see the identity of Salt Lake County, and how would you like it to change, if at all?
The Salt Lake County government is almost a $1 billion organization. We have over 300 programs and 3,600 employees. It falls neatly into mostly regional services and human services. Where there is no city, the county is also the city for Magna, Mill Creek, areas like that. I believe that while we will continue to invest in trails and parks and regional concerns like air quality, we also need to focus more energy on our human services, seniors, at-risk kids, mental health programs, drug treatment, the jail. Those are the core services that go away if county government goes away. I believe that we can be better and smarter and wiser about those, and if we can, we'll save money and strengthen the community.
Okay, and Mr. McAdams.
Yeah, thanks, Max. You know, I think this is such a fantastic community to live in. It's one where I grew up here and have chosen, my wife and I have chosen to raise our kids in this community because we really love living here. There's such a high quality of life in Salt Lake County. But the challenge facing us is that our county is changing. We have a population in this county that's just over 1 million today, and it's on its way to 2 million. They tell us within 20 years we will see 2 million people in the Wasatch Front in Salt Lake County alone. And I think the challenge for the next mayor is how are we going to maintain the high quality of life we enjoy today that makes this such a family-friendly community where we want to raise our kids and our grandkids, and despite the drastic changes that we're seeing. Now, Salt Lake County has last year the budget was $828 million, and I believe that the changes that we can see in Salt Lake County are looking to find efficiencies, to operate a government that uses the tax dollars to the utmost benefit of the residents and keeps a streamlined and efficient government. At the same time, we must maintain the quality of life, supporting things like open space, trails, a zoo, and Discovery Gateway, entities like that make this a great place to live and raise our families.
Mr. McAdams, the next question starts with you. A number of our viewers wanted to hear about Mill Creek City, what you both think about it, how it would impact the county. I want you each to specifically address where you're coming from, because I've heard you say that it would be a mistake to take a stand on this issue. And I wonder if that's the right view of leadership. Don't leaders take stands?
Certainly, but leaders also have to listen to the public that they represent. Now, there's a very vibrant and active debate in Mill Creek these days about how they're going to govern themselves, and there are good arguments on both sides. For those who don't want to see an incorporation, they say the services are great, and they worry about a tax increase if Mill Creek decides to form a city and create a new layer of government. Those who are proponents of the incorporation say that they're willing to pay any price, that they want to have that local control that comes with having a city council and a locally elected mayor, and I think there are good merits on both sides. At the same time, I don't live in Mill Creek, and I think it would be presumptuous of me, and I think it would be heavy-handed of me as the person who will be charged at the end of the day with implementing whatever the voters decide, to come in and pick a winner or a loser. The benefits are local, and the risks of that decision are local. And leaders, there's a time for a leader to lead and to make a decision and articulate a strong stance. And there's a time when it's important to listen to those people who are going to be most directly affected by the decision and really represent their will.
Mr. Crockett, you heard those words, presumptuous, heavy-handed. You have said that you think the people of Mill Creek would benefit from becoming a city.
I do think that leadership means that you should honestly answer questions, and apparently sometimes it's convenient to punt politically, but I'll tell you what I think about the Mill Creek situation. On the one hand, it would be my job as county mayor to make it irresistible for people to stay in the county. Our services are so good, our cost is so low, and we do such a great job of listening that people want to stay in the county. That would be my job. At the same time, I represented that area when I was on the county council for 4 years, and we tried very hard to make sure that they got more benefits, that they got their sidewalks fixed, that they had more infrastructure, that they had more say in their planning and zoning. And the reality is that cities generally get a better deal. The feasibility study for Mill Creek shows that it would be a $2 million surplus if they became a city. They would certainly be able to control their destiny in a way that they can't today. So I can understand why they may want to indeed incorporate. If they do, we need to have a plan as a county for what happens to the rest of the unincorporated areas to make sure that we keep them financially whole.
I want you to have 30 seconds to respond, because I think Mr. Crockett suggested you're punting on this issue.
Look, I believe in local control and representing the will of the people. There are many decisions where it truly is local. I think of the street in Murray where they're debating whether or not to lower the speed limit. And there are benefits to a lower speed limit, but there's also presents challenges to commuters. Should I, as the county mayor, come in and say what my position should be on a speed limit on a local road? They're decisions that are truly and fundamentally local. And I don't believe we need the heavy hand of government to come in and tell the residents how we want it to be and what they should make, what decisions they should make for themselves.
And your time is up on that. I want to change questions. Mr. Crockett, this question goes to you. You had mentioned air quality as we began to talk. What I'm wondering is when do you decide? I kind of feel like you both say air quality is a serious issue. It is a public health issue, but you're not ready to use some of the real tools of government, taxes or regulation, to actually enforce something that will change the way that people act. When does it get bad enough that you do that?
How far we go with that, I don't know for the immediate term, but I believe that our county residents are ready to take this issue on. Whether it's Republican delegates or people who live in the avenues, I think across the valley we've had enough, and we see that it's only getting worse. So that means we need to think about our planning and zoning and the density and the track stops. Means we need to think about recapturing more of the fumes at the pumps, talking to our trucking companies that come through the valley about what we can do to reduce emissions there. Also working with Kennecott and Flying J, some of the larger producers of pollution. And I know they're doing a lot of things already, but they volunteer that there is more that can be done. There are a range of sources for all of these pollutants. We need to have a plan against each one of these. Sometimes that's going to be voluntary, sometimes it's a change in behavior, sometimes it's a change in the transportation, the planning and zoning, and we may also need to think about some penalties along the way if the citizens are really ready to step up for that.
All right, and Mr. McAdams, the question is, when do you start implementing tough rules or taxes or whatever you could do as a government official?
Max, anytime our kids are kept inside at recess because the air is not safe to breathe, it's time for us to get serious about some solutions. Air quality on the Wasatch Front is at a dangerous level. We need to do better. And I believe, I don't know that I agree with my opponent that penalties are maybe the way to do it, but I think that visionary leaders can really look at a plan and a future of how to get out of this challenges. And some of it, 60% of the pollution in Salt Lake County is from vehicles. Look, we have a population that will double in the next 20 years. Some of the solution is mass transit. Some of the solution is to take the jobs to where the people live so they can drive less. And I think that's going to improve quality of life. It's going to reduce government expenditures on things like roads and power lines and sewer lines. But it also is going to improve our air quality. So I think some of it is just implementing goals and implementing vision and growing our community. And that doesn't cost taxpayer dollars to do that, but growing our community in a way that will help us get away from the challenges that we face today.
All right, thank you both. We're going to go to break. Coming up after the break, we're going to hear answers to questions that you have submitted to Fox 13. And welcome back to this debate between Ben McAdams and Mark Crockett, the two candidates for Salt Lake County Mayor. Now, we are going to go on to our next topic, both of you, and I believe that Mr. McAdams, you start this answering this next question. Both of you talk in some business type terms about the strategic plans that you have for the county. But government and business are very different things. Businesses can choose clients that are more desirable. You guys have to serve all of the citizens. Tell me, what is the difference between government and business, and how do you serve a citizen? Well,
I would say, first of all, it's important to have business principles in government. Anytime we can operate more efficiently, providing good customer service to the residents of this county, are key principles that I think we should apply in government. And I have a significant experience in the business and private sector that I have brought to local government very successfully. But you're right, government is fundamentally different than business. In fact, our founding fathers set up government to be slower and more clunky intentionally, because we want to have decisions that are made through a collaborative process that really represent the will of the people. So I think the first difference between government and business is that in order to get stuff done in government, you have to build consensus. You have to bring people together and forge a consensus to move forward by implementing initiatives. I'm proud in this race to have the support of 13 of 17 mayors in Salt Lake County, because we've worked together. They know that I'm the type of person who listens, who brings people together and forges a consensus and doesn't just try to ram something through because it's what I think should happen.
Mr. Crockett, difference between business and government?
Yeah, I have spent most of my career in business. We both started off in law, and being a lawyer is not the same as actually running an organization. I have been a small company CEO and grown a business and sold it. I've also helped turn around very large organizations with hundreds of thousands of employees. What I've learned is that if you really want to make a change, you have to include all the people who actually are involved in the way the work is going to change. It's easy to say we're going to hold our budgets down, we're going to cut spending, we're going to keep taxes down. If you can't actually change the way the work is done every day, though, you're not going to get very far. I've helped companies and governments save billions of dollars a year, and the way we do it is by making it fully transparent so people know exactly what we're spending on each thing, and then you get the person who uses the service, the person who provides the service, all the different stakeholders who care about it together to redesign it, turn each change into an income statement, and then actually sign off on it in advance. When you have that kind of consensus, the best of business and government come together to actually make change, improve services, and keep taxes down.
All right. Thank you for that, both of you. I'm going to use a little bit of a moderator's prerogative and address this question first to Mr. McAdams, because even though that's out of order, because this question involves something that I heard you say, and I want you to, it's basically a put your money where your mouth is question. You said, talking in front of the state's mayors and city councils, that Mr. Crockett has a reputation for losing his temper and for not working well with people. Now, that is a heck of a thing to say about somebody in a public forum. I'm wondering if you have proof of that. Can you put your money where your mouth is?
Well, you know, and I want to avoid negative campaigning, because I think...
but you said it.
It is true. You know, I've read it in the Salt Lake Tribune. It actually came to my attention in the Republican primary as my Republican opponent was talking about an incident where he lost his temper, slammed his hands down on a desk and broke the desk. And I've heard of other instances where he's lost his cool, yelled at constituents. As I've been out on the campaign trail meeting with mothers and constituents, I've heard stories that, quite frankly, have been disappointing. But I don't think that's what this campaign is about. I think the campaign is about our respective abilities to bring people together and move forward. And my track record, I work in the Utah legislature, and as a senator in the Utah legislature, I've shown that I can extend a hand of friendship across party lines, across the aisle, and find solutions. And having the right idea is only part of the solution in government. The ability to implement that idea is really where leadership comes through.
Mr. Crockett, your response.
If that isn't negative campaigning, then I don't really know what is. I haven't broken a desk, and we all do get kind of worked up sometimes. We're talking about issues that matter to the society and matter to ourselves. And I know that my opponent has sometimes, when his bills have been tabled at the legislature, refuses to talk to his colleagues for a week. I mean, we can come up with stories all day long about, you know, gee, we should all be nicer or better, but the reality is that there is something involved in this called leadership. And I think where people have greater grounds to say is, gosh, is this a person who's just trying to get along nice with other politicians? Or is this somebody who actually asks for homework, expects people to do their homework well, sometimes says no, sometimes holds people accountable? That's a piece of leadership that I think is very important. And so sometimes people, you know, some of the mayors that he points to, you know, I said no, at least I tried my best to say no to Tom Dolan on the soccer stadium because the financial statements were awful and because I thought it was disproportionate, and I didn't think that the state legislature should be forcing us to do that. So sometimes I do say no, but don't confuse that with getting along with folks and knowing how to build consensus.
Mr. McAdams, he mentioned some things about you there. How would you respond?
Yeah, you know, I've never heard that. I actually get along great with my colleagues in the legislature. Many of them are supporting me, Republicans and Democrats. You know, I have to say, saying no, I have no problem saying no, and I do that frequently, and I say yes at the right times. But one of the things that concerns me is you don't have to lose your temper and yell at a PTA mom to say no. I think in government's different than business. In government, it's behooving of us to always treat the people we interact with respect, to treat that PTA mom who's come to a public hearing to speak out, to recognize that she has something of value and I should listen to her.
That's time.
I have to interject there. I don't know where he's getting these stories.
30 seconds. As
far as I know, he's making them up. And if this isn't negative campaigning and a smear, then I don't really know what it is.
Okay. We're going to move on from here. Teresa Ricketts, one of our viewers, put this question to us on Facebook. How easy would it be to talk to you in person when one of you is elected to get issues addressed and solved? And I think we're going to start with you, Mr. Crockett.
I think it will be very easy. We'll have open hours when people can come. I'll be out at all kinds of events. There are only so many hours in a day and a week, but most all of them are going to be spent out at events and working with people. We'll also have a phone number that everybody can be able to call and emails, and we'll have a staff to make sure that we're most efficiently listening. What I would say, though, is as long as I have a little bit more time on this topic, is that there are different kinds of listening. One is, hey, let's hear. Another one is, let's go and listen and ask. And then there's real transparency. You know, just having a Twitter account that says, this is where I am today, hey, please tell me what you're thinking. What would be really nice to know is, here's how much we spend on every single thing the county does. Here is a way that we can invite people from all the different stakeholder groups and the general interest to come and get involved and actually change the way we do our work. That, I think, is the kind of input that would really change the way people think about their county government. And that's what we're going to be starting in January. A month-by-month plan about how we're going to do that is laid out on my website, markcrockett.com.
Okay, and Mr. McAdams, how available would you be?
You know, I'm going to comport myself, and my behavior is going to be exactly like it has been as a senator and as a candidate. My cell phone is available on my website. People call me all the time, and I respond. My personal email address is available, and I'm known in the Senate for being somebody who responds to personal emails, who sits down and meets with my constituents. I would encourage. Maybe some of your listeners who have been following this campaign, they've seen me in every parade that we did over the summer, at every street festival, at community events, at holiday events. I've been there, and I've been accessible, and I'll continue to be that as mayor, because I believe it's not only having an open door so people can come and talk with me, but it's also being out in the community, so I go to where the people are. And they know me as a real person, and they can see my wife and my kids and know that we're real people, and I want them to know that I recognize that the decisions that we make have real consequences on families like mine and all of the families throughout this valley.
Okay, thank you both. That does it for this segment, and coming up, we are going to hear closing statements from each of these men. Stay with us. We're so glad you're with us for the Salt Lake County mayoral debate here on Fox 13. It is time for closing statements. We had a coin toss at the beginning and decided that Mr. Crockett, you are going to finish. And so, Mr. McAdams, your closing statement.
Well, thanks, Max. It's been great to be with you and have an opportunity to talk to the great people of Salt Lake County. You know, one of the greatest assets we have in Salt Lake County are our people. The great culture in Utah, people who trust one another, who are quick to make friends and extend a hand of community. And we have such a great community, and the biggest challenge on the horizon for Salt Lake County is maintaining that sense of quality of life and community that we enjoy today. I believe I have some skills that I bring to the job. I want to make a positive difference in this community. I'm a corporate finance attorney who's done international finance and mergers and acquisitions for Fortune 500 companies. I teach securities regulation and business law at the University of Utah. I'm a senator that represents almost 100,000 people from 3 cities in this county. And I believe those skills will be important for the next county mayor. But equally important is the fact that I'm a father, a husband, active in my church and my community, and that I understand that the decisions that I make as county mayor will have real consequences on families like mine and the others in this county. I'm running for county mayor, and I ask for the votes of the good people in this county.
And that's your time. And Mr. Crockett, your closing statement.
Thank you very much for having us. We really appreciate it. I live in the Holiday area near Olympus High School with my wife Judy and our 2 girls, ages 8 and 5, and Molly, and we do love this place. I'm running because I believe in the Valley, and I believe that we can do more and we can do better, and that we can also do it without raising taxes. How many times have we heard a politician stand up or sit in a place like this and say, I'll keep your taxes down, and then it doesn't happen? The reason is because you have to have a skill set. If the county is a $1 billion budget almost, do you want somebody who has run organizations like that before, as I have, who have turned them around, who have actually managed to change the way the work is done to keep spending down? Or would you like to pick somebody who has never been responsible for a budget or run an organization before? I submit to you that it's helpful to have somebody who understands the county and how it works, also who knows how to run organizations, because then I'll be able to start on day one. We will be able to keep taxes down. We will be able to improve important, critical human services to make our communities and our families stronger in the coming years. Thank you very much.
Mark Crockett, Ben McAdams, thank you very much, and thank you for watching. Voting is on November 6th.